I'd like to start by introducing vector image and bitmap image. Bitmap is also referred to as raster image or pixel image. Let me show you a few examples of bitmap and vector image so that we can understand the context of these things clearer. So we're going to use this fire as an example. This image represents flame, and we can see three different separations of color. Basically, this is orange, an orange that is almost a red color. We can see the middle color, which is a typical orange color, and the color below, which is an orange color almost looking like a yellow. So it's fire basically, and fire is represented in basically red, orange, and yellow. So here we are, and you can see that the outer color is standing on its own. It's not blending with the middle color, neither is the middle color blending with the third color. They all have a defined edge. Vector images don't have the capacity to create gradients that flow into each other, unlike a bitmap image or a raster image. Okay, so let me show you another example of a vector image. In the image of this bird, you can see that there are three tones of green. If you look at the top part of this bird, you can see that down below there's a different tone of green. At the middle part, there's a different tone of green. At the top, there's a different tone of green, all in the green family. But we can see the clear, defined line and the separation between the three tonalities. Here around the feather area, we can still see that green tone, the darkest green tone. We can see the darker green tone. Then we can see the light green tone. But there's no blending. There is a clear definition between the separation of the different color tonalities. It's because it's a vector image. One of the good advantages of a vector image is that it's scalable. You can increase it to any size and it won't lose its quality. It won't begin to pixelate. It won't begin to get blurred, unlike a raster or bitmap image. Okay, so vector images are good for creating logos that have single color or three colors. It can be multiple colors but standalone colors, colors that are not blending or graded into each other. Vectors are good for creating logos. They're also good for creating illustrations. Here is a clear example. On the left hand side, we have a bitmap image or a raster image. And on the right hand side, we have a vector image. You can see that this pants on the left hand side has depth. So what is depth? Depth is the fact that you can see a shadow between this folding. You can see the shadow between this folding that tells you that that part has a hollow. You can see that this part is extruded above this other part of the trousers. That information of extrusion is determined by light and shadow. This place is lighter than here, and it's not having a sharp line. You can see that between the two colors there's a softness where the colors are blended or graded into each other. The ability for an image to be displayed in this way only has to be displayed by a bitmap. So most times you see a regular picture, a design, it has a lot of bitmap representations in the design to show depth. And most times bitmap images are very, very relatable because they look like what we see every day with our eyes. Okay, you can create a design with a bitmap image and use vector illustrations to illustrate certain parts of that design. This we're going to be doing moving forward as we continue in the course. So having established the difference between these two, let's go further into Photoshop as I introduce you to the interface of Photoshop. So in this course, I'm not trying to teach you all that entails Photoshop. I'm trying to teach you Photoshop to create graphics, to create cover letters, to create posters, to create any form of graphics entirely. 3D representations, some art forms, some illustrations, some very, very nice and eye-catchy, intriguing artistic works and projects. So that is the target. But Photoshop is a very, very detailed and all-encompassing software. The creators of Photoshop, Adobe themselves, made sure it was detailed and encompassing enough so that a lot of people can use it. Architects also use Photoshop sometimes to do some other detailing on their projects. So here we are in Photoshop. Some people open this interface and they get confused and they get overwhelmed with how it looks. And I would like to start by introducing you to the tools window. This is the first window I want to introduce to you. It's on the left hand side. It carries all the tools you ever need in Photoshop to work, to create art, to create any form of design, and all that stuff. So the first tool is your move tool. The move tool is a tool that helps you to move things within your artboard. Now, what is your artboard? This portion of the Photoshop interface is your artboard. This is your artboard. So this is your move tool, and every time you select your tool, you'll notice that it gets a darker form of gray tone around it, making you understand that that tool has been selected. If you go down to the next tool and you click on it, it will get a darker tone of gray, making you understand that that tool has been selected. And interestingly, Photoshop explains itself to tell you that this is the move tool, and to tell you what it does. This tool moves a selection or layer. That's simple. That's what it does basically. I'll explain layers in detail so that you can understand what layer is, because your understanding of layers will really help you very well as a graphics designer. So moving forward, if you come down to the third tool, you will see the way it explains itself. The polygonal lasso tool makes selection by connecting straight lines. The fourth tool is a quick selection tool. It makes a selection by finding and following the edges in an image. The next tool is your crop tool. Trims or expands the edge of an image. So we can go all the way to the end, and the Photoshop will keep explaining the tool. It's that simple. So I'm not going to be teaching you how to use all these tools. And like I said before, the essence of this particular course is to teach you how to create stunning visuals. And you don't need every single tool to do this. Of course, you need a couple of them, but you don't need all of them. So I'm not going to be explaining all of them. Having explained what this window is, this window is your tools window. The next window I will explain is the window just above here. If you look at the top part of Photoshop, you see this window. This window is your attributes window. It explains the attributes of any tool. The attributes window in Photoshop explains the detail of any element you select in Photoshop. It can be a tool, it can be an element within your workspace, maybe a layer or any particular subject. The attributes window explains that particular subject's tool or layer. It's telling you information of skill or other things you can do to modify that particular subject or tool. So, explaining this tool above, which is the attributes tool for the tool panel. I'll say that again. This window above is the attributes tool for the tools panel. So if you click on the first tool, which is the move tool, you'll see the attributes above. When you see auto select, layer, show transform controls, and all these other options all the way to the end are options that when you tweak, they will affect how the move tool works in your workspace or artboard. The next tool is the elliptical marquee tool. Now that we've selected this tool, you can even see a small demonstration that Photoshop does for you. It does that so that you can have an idea of what that tool can do for you and how you can select that tool. So you can use to select circles within your space. Let's say you can see how the demonstration is selecting that moon and it's doing it really, really accurately. And if you click and hold that tool, you see other options. So if you click and hold the first tool, you see the move tool, you see the artboard tool. If you click and hold this second tool, you see the rectangular marquee tool, you see the elliptical marquee tool, which is the default tool that's there. You see the single row marquee tool, you see the single column marquee tool, and all of that. If you click on the third tool, you see the lasso tool, you see the polygonal lasso tool, you see the magnetic lasso tool, and all of that. Okay, so when you click and hold, it gives you more options on the same tool. A tool has other subordinate tools that can help you achieve any particular kind of result you want to achieve. Every tool has that other subsidiary or subordinate tools that is in that tool family. Having established that, when you click a tool, this window above shows you attributes of that tool and how you can or manipulate those attributes. So every time you select a tool on your tools path, just under this list here, this window has attributes for every tool you select, and every time you tweak the attributes of any tool, it will affect how that tool works for you in your workspace or your palette or your artboard. If you click on this tool, you can see that every time I click on the tool, the attributes panel on top here for that tool keeps changing. I click on the tool, you can see that the modifications here, opacity, flow, smoothing, the mode, and all of that. Okay, I click on the next tool, it has opacity, it has flow, it has current layer at this particular point, it has a bit differential. This one has style, it has area, it has tolerance. So every time you click on the tool, and if I begin to, you can see that it has values. This one has 50, this one has 0%, this one has 100%. If you click on the arrow here, you can slide around here. So it's something you have to do intentionally. Okay. So having explained this window, which is your tools window, I've explained the window above. This window changes as you select tools, because not every tool has same attributes. Some tools have similar attributes, but every tool have their distinctive attributes. So this tool has been explained. The next window I will explain is the layers window. But before we explain the layers window, let's go above just here and see the first option we have here, which is the file. So just like every software, every basic software has that file. I notice if you're a computer literate and you use computer a lot, you will recognize that every software has a file. So what the file helps you do is to create basic tasks in the software. In this case, you can see that it has the option to create new, to open, to browse, to open as, to save as, to close, and other options like automate, scripts, import, file info, print, and so on. This option here is new. On the right hand side, you can see that it has a shortcut. So what are shortcuts? Shortcuts are keyboard options or keys on the keyboard that helps you to create a particular effect or a particular result faster than having to use your cursor or your mouse to move or hover around the interface of Photoshop. So in this particular case, we can see the new option has a Control N. So if I click Control N on my keyboard, it's going to create a new document. So let me do it right now. I'll hold Control and click N, and to bring the option for me to create new document. Immediately I did that, this window just popped up by itself. So if you have Photoshop open, you can try it by yourself. Immediately I held Control and I hit N. So the thing is that you have to hold Control, don't leave it, hold it down, then use another finger to hit N, and Photoshop will understand that you want to create a new document. And it will pop up this window where you can now create new documents and all of that. We'll come back here where I'll explain some things further. Most of these things are self-explanatory and you have to try them by yourself subsequently. But the other ones like export, like generate, like share, like automate, script, import, they have some other attributes that are not similar to other softwares that have the same file option here. Most of these things will be explained while we work, but I want to do a basic introduction of the Photoshop interface. The next option is the edits. Just like the name implies, is basically self-explanatory. It helps you to edit things in Photoshop, whether it's a layer, whether it's a subject, whether it's a tool, anything. Basically, there's a lot of things you can do with the edit tab. Okay, so the next one is the image. It helps you to modify images. Basically, these things will be understood as we practicalize them, as we actually modify an image, and you see how we use those tools. But I'll just go over to the end. There's a layer, there's a type, there's a select, there's a filter, there's a 3D view, plugins. So anytime we install plugins on Photoshop, this is where you see them. There's a window and there's a help. So most times the help tab, hands-on tutorials. If you want hands-on tutorials and you click here to launch a window or a site online, so you have to be connected for this help tab most of the time to work. So I would like to come back to this window tab and explain what this window tab is. The Photoshop interface comprises of a lot of windows that you have to hover around, move, tweak from time to time to create the kind of results that you want, depending on any art you want to create, whether you're creating a design, a flyer, a poster, anything, billboard, whatever it is. So there are different options that are very handy for you to use, and most of these options are hidden within tabs, or they are just in the interface somewhere. So sometimes these tabs are not all visible because it's going to make the entire interface clumsy. So Photoshop has a default workspace of an interface that shows you just the tab they think you will always need. But as a creator, you may have different preferences and you feel you need this tab, you don't need this tab, or this other tab is serving you better, or is having the purpose of the other tab. In those cases, you can go and manually choose the particular tab you want to be visible in Photoshop. So if a tab is not visible, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist in Photoshop. It just means that it's not checked. It's not checked, so it's not visible. So let's go. This is a window tab. If we hover down within the Windows tab, you see that the navigator is ticked. This is a navigator tab. So where is the navigator window? This is the navigator window in the Windows tab. But then let's see what the navigator window is. this is the navigator window. The navigator window has a slider below. When you click and bring it down to the left, it scales your artwork backward. Okay, it makes it smaller. You bring it to the right and it makes it bigger. Visually explained, you can see this image here is smaller and the one here is bigger. So every time you scale this placeholder here, it takes it bigger and it brings it smaller. Now, if you see this red line around the navigator, that red line is telling you that your workspace, the space you're working in, is occupying this screen, like it's in full view. No part of it is hidden. So that's when you see this red line at the border of this navigator space here. If it increases further, you see the red line going in. So what this red line is showing you is showing that this is what you can see as at now. So if you look at the edge of this artboard or workspace, you can see the edge that is being seen. It's showing like a square because you have scaled in, you have zoomed it in. So it's showing you that this is what you can see as at now. The more you bring it closer, you can see how smaller it gets. So if you have a graphics design, you can always move in this way. And if you need to hover to the left, you click on the red box and move to the left, or just move it around just the way you want. Okay, so that's why I like the navigator tool. Why some people alternatively use the control tool on the keyboard, the control plus and control minus to zoom in and zoom out. I find that very useful too, but I find the navigator very useful because it can do all of that and even do more. So what is the more that the navigator tool can do? It can help you to click on that red box and navigate around the design, not just to zoom in and zoom out.